Hi everyone, it's Starr Ravenhawk, Merry Meet. Good to be back again. I wanted to do a video today on Wicca, witchcraft, the words, the terminology, who we are, and how we worship in our belief systems. So I'm just going to kind of try to go down some of it. Our deities, many, and we're all different. Because we're all different people and different witches around the world, we all practice differently um, in the terms of our gods and goddesses and who we worship. Some only worship female goddesses, some only worship male gods, some worship male and female aspects of the god, some worship only, some worship like me, both male and female gods and goddesses. Some believe in only one god and one goddess, and many of us believe in many gods and goddesses. I'm one of those that believe in many gods and goddesses, and because it's different for each of us. That's the uniqueness of being a witch. A lot of things are made privately for us. Um, as to how, in general, there's a main thing with a lot of us in general, which is celebrate the natural world and the seasonal cycles of the world. We acknowledge the gods and goddesses as the feminine side of a deity called God, and we worship both gods and goddesses. And I explained to you guys how some kind of break it down already. Um, let's see. Some are still in the closet, as people would say, the broom closet, because of some people believe it's traditionally meant that they keep it private. Some want to keep it secret because of their jobs, their different things that they do, or their children, their family, and rightly so. And they want to avoid persecution in general. Um, if you think of the climate of this country right now, a lot of people want to keep it private, and rightly so. Um, and kind of deciding what they want to do with themselves. It's all a private thing. It's the one uniqueness about being a witch. Everything about us is unique in the sense of it's based on who we are. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a bit of definition or information, because this part I think even some witches themselves are confused about. The word Wicca, W-I-C-C-A. It's been turning up more and more in conversations and online on different social media. There are many conversations about it, which I kind of I'm walking away because it's going to turn into a fight, which a lot of them have not been able, they're not able to prove anything, but they're getting it from either their priestesses, their priests, their elders, who they themselves did not do the research on it. And essentially, I advise people to always do their research, doubt me or question me, question everyone, because no one knows everything. But do your research on the topic, so you would know that what I'm saying is on point. And even in books, authors have gone to a lot of pains to convey that there's a distinction between Wicca and witchcraft and different things. So that's the reason why I wanted to kind of bring this topic up, because it's in published works, and when things are published, people believe it's the gospel, it's the word, and I wanted people to kind of know that there are things that they should question even in books, okay, by these authors. In general, there are three groups of thoughts right now on social media among witches, or Wiccans. I should not say witches only, because a lot of them will not call themselves witches, they're Wiccans only. So, this is the reason that I'm having this topic. There are three groups of thought on this. That some groups identify themselves as practicing Wicca exclusively as a religion or spiritual path, and they do not practice witchcraft or other magic. That's one. Two, some groups claim that witchcraft predates Wicca, which they apparently believe was invented by Gerald Gardner and is therefore more authentic. That's two. And then there's three, that only practitioners who are of the lineage of the Gardner tradition has the right to the word Wicca, and everybody else can use the word witchcraft because that's our praxis, nothing else. We can only use that because we're not from Gerald Gardner's lineal line. And a lot of that is so inaccurate because um, even dating back to the 60s and 70s, um, books that were written by Selena Fox, and others. And back then, Selena Fox wrote a book in the 60s um, that was, what was it called again? What is the name? I can't remember. I'll find out. I'm going to check my writings on it. But anyways, she wrote a book in the 60s on witchcraft as a religion. And um, she wrote about witches and all of that. And if she did even mention the word Wicca, it was kind of like um, either sparingly, because we all know that it's the word Wicca, um, uh, the word witch is derived from Wicca, but people are trying to make a distinction between the two. So what I'm basically saying is that back in the 60s and 70s, people always thought of it as just witches, even among the Gardnerians. The Gardnerians, witches call themselves Gardnerian witches. Um, and, so no one called themselves Wiccans back then. So now hearing all this modern vintage of the word Wicca, people kind of wanting to know distinctions and where it's coming from. So I said I better explain some of that. And um, to me, there are no distinctions because it's kind of perplexing when something comes from one from the other. It does not make sense to then make a distinction between the two and give it one is the religion and one is the craft that they practice with the magic. So that's why they have the separation of some groups saying that they only do the magic and some of them saying they only do the religion. Um, okay, the words Wicca is a Saxon word. If you want a proof of this, of what I'm saying, you can check out the old Oxford English Dictionary, which is where all the scholars go to for a lot of things, for entomology especially, and you would see the word. The word Wicca, Wicca, is an old Saxon word, and the Saxons had nouns, and it's a noun, it's not an adjective, a noun, and they had with feminine and male, masculine endings. So the word Wicca, Wicca, that people call now, is pronounced Witcha, uh, and the A on the end suggests masculine. So if you're calling yourself Wicca, then that would be a male witch. If it's a female witch, it's Wicce, Wicce, or Witche, pronounced in the Saxon way. Um, so CC was pronounced like ch, you know what I mean? So witch, witcha, Wicca, witcha, witche. So it's witche and witcha. Witcha is the male, witche with the E and the end is the female. Then the word Wiccan, Wiccan, would be the plural form of that male noun, which would be Wicca, male, Wiccan, more than one male witch, with the an, like how you know it, but it will be pronounced Witchan. Okay, like Witchan. Okay, and the female version of that would be Witchen, which will be like bitchin, but with the E at the end, so it would be Iccen. That's where the words came from. So if coming forward now in modern times, we then take the word and we say we are Wiccans and we don't practice witchcraft, you're kind of taking away all that facts that came before and where the word derived from. And you're separating it and making it a distinction between it, and you're saying that the religion, the celebratorial part of it, and um, the ritual part of it are all separate and different. And it's not, because the word witch derived from the word Wicca. It's all the same word, you know. But I think people kind of got confused a bit because, like I said, before the 80s, in the 60s and 70s and going up until the 80s, up till actually 1988, everyone knew it as such, as the word witch and Wicca were all one and the same. But then in 1988, the first book was put out with it, defining it as Wicca, was Scott Cunningham in 1988. He put out the book Wicca: A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner, and that was the first time that anyone did that. And he was also the first author that claimed that there was a difference between Wicca and witchcraft. Before that, no one, thought anything of it, And if that same book was written in the 60s or 70s, the witches back then would all be sitting back going, "Huh? Why would he put the name Wicca, something that was derived from coming forward that the old Saxon term for the word witch there and say it's that, and then calling and making a distinction between the two. People would be puzzled. Um, but that's what he did, and people followed that, and people believed in that, which is not accurate. Um, so I'm just letting everyone know that part. Um, but essentially, it is the same word. It's derived for what it is. I've given you the male, the female um, uh, derivative of where it came from. I've also given you the plural, which is the Wiccan for the male. But if you're female and you're more than one in a group, as the females, we're witchin or bitchin. You know, the bitchin is the similarity, but which N with the EN for the females. Okay, just so you guys know, and all of that is proven in there. Now going back again, so that you guys would know what I'm talking about. Because a lot of people believe that Gardner is the one who created or invented the word Wicca. He did not. What he did was, which I'm very glad he did, is he revived the word Wicca because he knew it as the old Anglo-Saxon word, Saxon word. So he knew what it was from before, and he brought it forward. So he revived it. That we have to thank him for. But he did not invent or create the word. Then we even had a popular website, well-known website, that somebody also then said that Selena Fox is the one who created and invented the word Wicca. Neither of that is true, because let's see, Gardner did his own in 1950s, right? But J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote the Lord of the Rings trilogy, when he wrote the Twin Towers or whatever it is, I think the Tower book, his son Christopher documented that his dad in 1942, his dad J.R. Tolkien, when he was writing up the volumes for the book of the Towers one, um, his dad had put the word Wicca, and he was describing Gandalf and another character as Wiccans, or the word Wicca for them. And then he even described wizard, wise and wisdom and all of that as one of the terms that they use. And he did that in 1942, and that was a full decade before Gardner did that. So I don't think Gardner was using some of his information either, and neither did Tolkien use any of Gardner's information because it was a full decade before Gardner. So I think what had occurred was because, and I'm going to prove that because Tolkien wrote that in 1942, but it was not published. It was just a documented book that his son had done for him while helping him put together his books in one of the volumes. I think it was, I forgot the volume, but a volume with the Tower, chapter 20 or something like that. But anyways, um, uh, Tolkien's son Christopher did that, and he said it was not published. So then Gardner could not have been taking any information from there, and neither did Tolkien take it from Gardner because again he was published a full decade before, did this a full decade before Gardner. So a lot of that I think is people just need to um, kind of do their research on things, um, and check their information. Yes, it takes work, it takes time, but if you don't do it, then you go back to these things of where you're not getting proper information, and you guys are all following what either your priestess or your priest or whoever it is told you, and no one's looking it up. Another proof that you would need to know, also, if you check out that same Oxford English Dictionary, uh, Alfred, so what's his name? Both in that dictionary, Oxford Old Dictionary, let's see, the word Wicca can be found in the law codes of Alfred the Great, which was in 890 CE. And Alfred was a Christian zealous, who was very determined to convert everyone to his rule of faith. And he had a lot of pre-Christian superstitions and practices. And he actually said anyone that practiced any of their pagan ancestry were called Wiccans. He said it back then, Wiccan. He said that, and that was back in 890 CE. And the Celtic people, and he was conquering the Celts and everybody else, and he said they were all Wiccan. Now, of course, the Celts themselves did not call themselves Wiccans because they were not Saxon, they were Celts. So more than likely, and again, this is just me guessing, or what I researched, more than likely they were calling themselves or some form of druid or druidism, which is why I believe that druid or anything like that is one of the tributaries to what the word witch is applied now. Um, but of course, a lot of modern witchcraft druid people would be very hard pressed to make sure that what I'm saying, and they'll get into a hissy fit about it because they're going to say that that's incorrect because a lot of them wrote books like Wicca isn't Celtic and all these different things or articles on it. So they're going to not be happy with what I'm saying. But like I said, I could be wrong, but my research is not saying that I'm wrong. It's saying otherwise. So again, I want you guys basically to please do your research on things. Question me, question everyone. Oh, and here it was. I found it now. The Lord of the Rings trilogy was written by the word it was in his earliest draft of his manuscript of the Two Towers. There it is, and it was in let's see, in volume 7, The Treason of Isengard, chapter 20, The Riders of Rohan. That's where you would see the word Wicca, where Tolkien wrote it in 1942. All right, so I would love for you guys to look it up, find out some information, and let me know what you guys think. Okay, at this point I'll stop here and finish here and say merry part to you all right now. I'll be coming up with part 2 of this same video in a way that we'll be discussing is witchcraft and religion. And again, I want to thank you for being here and viewing my video. I know that there are many videos out there, and here you are viewing mine. So thank you all again, and I do welcome any thoughts, questions, ideas, suggestions, and even topics. Let me know, okay? You can reach me at wiccanfamilytemple.org or at WFTacademyofpaganstudies.org. And please don't forget to subscribe below, and I will see you all next time. Merry part and blessed be to you all.